I will try my best to live up to the enjoyable preview. But yeah, basically here to talk about app layer composability. And in general, I think we've seen a bigger trend towards people questioning composability, whether it matters. Specifically for apps, is there really any benefit to being composable? And of course, kind of the subtext of this is, why can't we all work together? What's preventing that? So a little bit about me. My name is Nitya. I'm the founder of Para. You may also know us as Capsule. But we build wallet infrastructure and universal embedded wallets more specifically. So embedded wallets have done a lot of good. They've created some new paradigms for the space, and they've also created some new challenges for us to solve. Namely, embedded wallets have really fixed a lot of the critical rough edges of interacting with crypto, namely seed phrase management, self-custody, pop-ups, needing to download extensions or mobile apps, needing to switch back and forth when using products. But they've really broken a paradigm that we somewhat took for granted in the crypto space, which is composability. So it really brings the question, does composability really matter? And I think this can kind of get boiled down into a couple of different things of, one, does it ever matter? Who does it matter for? And when does it matter? And so we'll kind of explore all of those different angles. But I think composability gets a little bit of a bad rap as almost this kind of theoretical luxury that we're building for in the crypto space, as opposed to something with actual motivation behind it. And so I thought it would be good to kind of give us a very Web 2, very practical, very tangible example of composability in action, and that's email. So as probably everyone in this room knows, email is not Outlook, it's not iCloud.com, it's not Gmail. It's a protocol that whether you're using Proton Mail or still using Hotmail, it's all connected to the same underlying open standard. Gmail, of course, is an app built on top of that standard. As Gmail evolved, there's also other ways people access their @gmail.com accounts. I was about to say wallets, but their email inboxes, and that is through third-party clients like a Superhuman. So what we see here is an example where we have this open standard. That open standard helps apps like Gmail, like Apple Mail, like Outlook, bootstrap through interoperability. And then as each of these products gets more and more adopted, the underlying moat, if you will, underneath that is actually the domain or the inbox that's associated. And then you get specialization where you have apps like Superhuman or Front that are built on top and therefore are able to kind of leapfrog over and bootstrap that initial user base so much more quickly. Switching from my Gmail or my work account to using a Superhuman for my inbox doesn't mean I have to switch my email address. It just means I have to log into a different client. And that's what SSO and sign-in with has largely kind of become. And I think what's important to note in this is another thing that in the crypto space gets a little bit of a bad rap with composability is a notion of things being zero-sum. And I think this example shows us that every layer here is benefiting from this. Google is benefiting from the proliferation of sign-in with Google and their identity model. Superhuman and Front are benefiting from low kind of getting started costs or low just kind of new user acquisition costs because they can leverage an existing network. And the fact that this is all built on one protocol means that I can still send an email to whoever I want. And to maybe go even one level deeper into why we might need composability for a given app. This is an extreme oversimplification of two types of storage, a database and a blockchain. And really, in terms of cost, in terms of speed, blockchains have made a lot of progress here. A database is still almost trivially going to be a faster and cheaper way to do something. But where this starts to really matter is when you need multiple players, when you need coordinated trust, and when you need an open system. So this really comes down to the element I mentioned of when do we need composability. We need composability when we need openness and when we need multiple players to interact. I think this is where, coming back to the beginning of the talk around, is app-level composability dead? I think apps are actually the wrong party to be thinking about composability. Rather, if we think about which kind of player within the crypto space is maybe already thinking about coordination, L2s have a pretty remarkable opportunity around already building against open standards like an EVM or another popular VM, and having a bunch of apps built on top. There is just really an opportunity for them to be drivers of this. So it's not really happening. What is happening is we have somewhat federated ecosystem UX. I think smart contract wallets have done a lot of good here, but it's also created a lot of kind of centralization or fragmentation of liquidity and user experience, as well as kind of contract models, where we've seen that across different L2s, there's this big rush to kind of verticalize UX. And I won't name any names, but I think there's like very well-known examples of basically going from the L2 to going to a somewhat either closed or highly incentivized L2-specific contract model or smart contract account setup. And then another thing that is a big part of this is, I think, within the wallet infrastructure space, there hasn't really been as much compatibility as could exist between creating a wallet with one provider, being able to use that elsewhere. We're starting to just see silos show up in a few places. And ultimately, that's hurting not only apps, but it's hurting everyone. And the way it's hurting apps is kind of going back to the example below. Most apps are starting out with 0 to 1, you get a user base, but eventually you become an ecosystem, you become a protocol of some sort. At least there are multiple front ends now connecting to some primitive. And now that path to graduating has been completely blocked. And so this is kind of a fundamental limiter to how much successful apps in the crypto space can grow without increasingly operating in a more zero-sum model. And I think it's important to mention here that embedded wallets have solved problems, and certainly app-specific embedded wallets might not go away. I think as long as there's an incentive for an application to kind of build a strong moat around your user base and create friction to prevent that, we will continue to see them. And the embedded wallet UX paradigm is truly something that has enabled many more people to come into the space. So we can't just say embedded wallets are bad, let's throw them out. Instead, I think we can think about things a little bit differently in terms of how ecosystems grow. When we've largely seen this path for ecosystems to verticalize wallet UX, it means that every ecosystem is starting from 0. And so you end up with my L2A wallet, my L2B wallet, my L2C wallet, and none of them talk to each other, none of the liquidity is shared, and I'm still kind of managing liquidity everywhere. But it really doesn't have to be that way. If we look back to the wallets that probably most of us in this room use, they work across ecosystems. As long as you can kind of enter your own RPC URL, your own chain ID, there is that broad-based compatibility. And so I think we do really have an opportunity at this specific point in the space with what looks to be another large wave of kind of new L2s cropping up, of new kind of desire to own block space. There is a really big opportunity for that user and wallet and access account layer to be somewhat shared. So I'm proposing kind of a notion of a global ecosystem wallet. A global ecosystem wallet is an ecosystem wallet in the sense that the ecosystem has ownership over the brand, over the user, over the experience that user sees. However, the liquidity is shared across ecosystems. And by ecosystems, I'm referring to chains, but this could also apply to a cross-chain protocol like a Uniswap. And so I think what kind of falls into a global ecosystem wallet are a few things. Defaults for an ecosystem, offering that control over UX, provider agnostic wallet connectivity, so it doesn't matter which embedded wallet anyone's using, these need to be fully accessible across different applications. Individual apps still need to be able to choose the UX that they want. And then fully global wallets. So of course, my MetaMask wallet is always global, but also my embedded wallets. And the fundamental barrier to this has largely been privacy and security related. And so I think a couple of properties that are pretty critical to enabling this are both revocable and app-specific key material. And so what do I mean by that? Maybe taking one step back, why would it be a bad idea to allow every app to access the same embedded wallet? It's kind of the same thing as putting my private key anywhere that I want to transact. Eventually there will be compromise and my wallet will be drained. And so what is required for a multi-app model where multiple apps are computing on a single wallet or performing transactions or signing messages is app-specific key material, and with that, app-specific revocability. You need to be able to turn off access or tune access or modify based on what an individual app needs, and that needs to be able to graduate over time. Similarly, there needs to be a notion of granularity around transaction permissioning and policies. Third, user choice around when to connect versus create wallets. Another big challenge that I think a lot of folks in the space are thinking about right now is privacy. In a model where you have, of course, a public open ledger, and you have a single wallet connecting that exposes an entire history, this is a pretty fundamental limitation to being able to reuse wallets, is that you're essentially kind of reusing history and you're sharing information much more broadly than you need to. And so a lot of this comes down to user choice around management. For any kind of auth or OAuth nerds in the room, this might actually sound pretty familiar. The revocable app-specific key material is a lot like if I go into my Gmail connected apps and I see what every app can do. Transaction level permissioning and policies is not that different from an OAuth scope. And then the user choice around when to connect versus create wallets is quite similar to a model where I have multiple Gmail accounts and I'm choosing which one to connect to a new app I'm using. And so I think in all of this, in summary, the composable future that we talk about in crypto isn't actually that different from a lot of the composable tools that already exist. We mainly need to figure out the right infrastructure to make sure that granularity and that kind of we can do these global operations and global sharing without having global access to individual wallets and ability to drain. So yeah, super excited to talk to anyone who's thinking more about this. And if you're interested in hearing more about what we're building around this, just come find me. Thanks.